Okay. So here we go. I'm going to share screen and we're going to talk about the science of creativity and how you think creatively can actually impact how you find time or how you use your time. So I have my master's in the science of creativity, which we can talk about in a minute, but that's how come I approach it this way. Okay. Here we go. I'll have to remember this next time. Look at how it gets right to where I want. Anyway, so find time to write, use your creative thinking style for easy productivity is the general title of this. And it's new territory for me. It's taking what I already teach and know kind of with a new slant. Basically because people have a hard time finding time to write. That is the number one complaint I get from everybody who tries to write. And this summer, obviously, we're going to try and find time to write despite the summery temptations of a pool or the beach or picnics or all the things we'd love to do in the summer. And we're going to try and use your favorite thinking style to make it fun and easy. Okay. Summer is a great time to write because a lot of us have half days at work on Fridays or Fridays off. A lot of us have friends who are away on vacation, so our social calendar gets far less demanding. And our meals are sometimes easier. We have picnics and grilling out and husbands at the grill and, just things, even more takeout probably. And the fun and reward is already built into your schedule. So you can have that sort of give and take relationship with hard work that you need in order to also enjoy summer. I see Imogen Johnson coming in, which is great. Imogen will touch you at the end about what you're writing. Anyway, let's talk first about why we write. And I put this in my Facebook group, which is called Write Without the Fight. Why would you continue to write knowing you would never get published? And you can see, and I just picked this up one day, 222 people commented, 3 of them shared it, and there wasn't a no among them. More often it was a name word like this, duh. Right? So why we write is it's sort of a compulsion. But we want to understand a part of the world. We want to express an underrepresented POV. We love stories and entertaining. It's a calling, a passion, a hobby. And one person said, all these damn people in my head, and the only way to evict them is on paper. So sometimes we just feel that compulsion to get them out of our heads. And then why do we fight? Because it puts our hopes at risk. Can you make real what you hope for? We have fears and doubts. We face new challenges. We have questions of worthiness. Who am I to be the authority? It's a high risk and a low promise of reward. And also sometimes we just sidestep a hard job and do an easy job that we'll get a pat on the head for. Vacuum, make dinner, do the shopping, something easier, self-valorization, that's called. So, as J.K. Rowling says, writing for me is a kind of compulsion. So I don't think anybody could have made me do it or prevented me from doing it. So the bottom line is, and if I'm speaking live, sometimes I'll just say, you can only avoid writing for about 45 pounds because I'm heavy and 45 years because I'm old. And eventually you want to write. So it's better to figure it out early than it is to figure it out later. Okay, so what's the most common complaint I hear? You're going to write now or later, whether it's this decade or next. You want to find time. So how can you lean into how your own creative mind works to find plenty of time and focus? I'm just going to say my mother's 93 and still working on the book she was working on my entire life. I did come up with a really cool way to help her finish it though, but more on that later. Okay, so like I said, I have my master's in the creative sciences. I'm a certified coach and creativity coach, and I'm the author of Write Without the Fight. It is my mission and my whole life to help writers, and we do it all the time. On mostly with the Mighty Writers, they work with me on a monthly basis, and we write together right now 5 days a week. But 100 Rainy Days of Summer will be 7 days a week. Okay. Just want you to know that the science of creativity, some people take offense at that because there's magic and flow feels like magic, but there's 70 years of research in the world, peer-reviewed, evidence-based techniques for creating better. And I got my master's not because I'm sciencey, but because I was stuck, plain old. And because I was afraid to try for an MFA, to be honest, I thought I'll just try this. Anyway, there's a lot more help out there than stuck or block writers ever knew, and science can clarify your understanding of your creative brain. It can give us ease. So this is the universal creative process. It's based on the work of Gerard Puccio, who was the chairman of the department where I got my master's at Buffalo State College, and a lot of other people who contributed to it. But this is how you're already thinking. Your brain works naturally from clarity to ideas to structure to finish. Clarity, ideas, structure, finish. And this is a little cycle that is iterative. It's like if I was going to come up with something that rhymes with Bob, my head would go, why do I need that? Oh, what ideas do I have? Should I just give them one? Should I give them 6? And then I'd finish. Sob, But your brain does that for that teeny a little thought, but also a huge thing. Why do I want to write a script? All the way through. So it's how you're thinking. It's an observed process, not an imposed process. So I talk about this in particular in my TEDx talk. It's Not Just Mojo, Cultivating Creativity. And you guys should all go like that and say, yes, Julia is the best, because it would help me. But it is, 9 minutes on this subject that, it's very concise and practically presented. So this is my website, Decoding Creativity. Why does your brain work against you when you say you want to write? It's a hard question. And of course, most of you probably are in the Facebook group, Write Without the Fight, but feel free to go there if you are not and ask to join. Okay. What works? Most of us spend a lot of time and energy on workshops, writers' conferences, writing classes. We work on our craft, plot, character, pacing, etc. And we go home all fired up, but then what? We haven't done anything about the instrument, and we are the instrument. That's the music, right? What you're writing, but we are the instrument. You tend to learn your craft and ignore the instrument. And what does your instrument need to perform at its best? So how do you work? How do you work when you're creating? What does your brain do well? What's a struggle? This is the domain of deliberate creativity, of the science of creativity. And then, so you learn to use your instrument to its best advantage. So you're not going to change who you are, and comparing will only make you miserable. It's the thief of joy. I think I believe that's a Shakespearean quote. But at any rate, what you are going to do is glory and accept 100% who you are, and learn how to use that to your best advantage. We're going to be pretty, we all get stuck, blocked, etc. in very different ways. You feel foolish, you feel fault, you feel blame, particularly when someone that you respect says, I do this, do that, and then you try that and it doesn't work. They just have a different way they have a different creative thinking preference, strength than you do, so they go about it differently. Okay. And if I just said this about why you should care, the result of not writing is frustration, anger at yourself, resentment, sinking self-esteem, overthinking, overdrinking, and overeating. That's me. Spending on craft without self-knowledge, without a well-tuned instrument. So I don't know anybody who could have seen this picture on the interwebs and not wanted to use it in the presentation, but it's a cat flying through space on a pizza. Don't rob the world of your unique voice, right? We are the weirdos of the world, obviously, because otherwise we wouldn't want to write. We want to write because we have something that needs saying. We have something that we see that is unique or interesting, or a different point of view, or it's underexplained, or it's underappreciated. Why do we write women's lit? Because it's underrepresented, or it's represented poorly. We feel the need as weirdos to point all that out and make people see it. Okay, so what kind of creative thinker are you? And more importantly, what kind are you not? We spend a lot of time wishing we were everything, and instead of just quitting the apologies and moving on. So we're just going to talk about 2 big buckets today. You saw that 4-phase thinking. That is an important concept in creative science, and it's important to dig deeper on that. But in this particular webinar, we're just going to talk about these 2. big buckets, divergent thinking and convergent thinking. Most important way to separate your thoughts, divergent thinking and convergent thinking. So divergent thinking is lots of ideas, lots of questions, comfortable with ambiguity and possibility, flexibility, fluidity of thought, openness, and curiosity. As you can see from the arrows, it's going out there and finding all out there. Okay. Convergent thinking, by contrast, is decisive. It's selecting and perfecting. It's finding the essential. It can be minimalist, not always, but it can be. Streamline, develop, narrow the focus. So you're taking things that are out here and bringing them into the center. And that is convergent thinking. And those big buckets are the basis of a lot of the science of creative thinking. So just everybody in the with us today, just cross your arms and just cross your arms, just like the guy in the picture. Okay. Now I want you to just now put the other arm on top. Just put the other arm on top. And how does that feel? How does it feel? You can unmute and just let me know. Does it feel odd? Does it feel uncomfortable? I mean, nobody can't do it, right? But it feels weird, right? So the bottom line is it's as if one of these, S.J. O'Leary, are you talking? I don't know your first name. What's your first name?
I'm sorry, Stephanie.
Stephanie. So how does it feel for you to shift arms?
It was odd. Yeah, it felt weird. I was like, I didn't expect it was going to be that strange.
And yet you don't have a trouble. You can do it, right?
Yeah.
So that's a little bit like divergent and convergent thinking. We have one that's really natural to us, and the other that's a little odd for us, a little awkward. But it's not like we can't do it. It's just that one comes naturally to us, and the other is odd and awkward. So that's the analogy for that. So we both do divergent and convergent thinking. We all do it all the time, but one we lean towards and the other we lean away from. But we use divergent and convergent thinking all the time. What does this scene need to say? That's convergent. Can't we make this more interesting? That's divergent. You're looking for ideas. How could we work it as a flashback? It's divergent. Convergent. Does this say what I needed to say? You know, even just naming your characters is convergent, but first it's going to be divergent. You're going to have, I don't know, I always go to the census and look up names from 1930 of popular names for girls in whatever the birth date of my character. That's divergent. You can't name all those things. And then convergent is you bring in some criteria, you want it to be weird, whatever it is, and then you converge. So we all do both, but we all spend undue amounts of time probably in the one we love and try to avoid the one we dislike, right? And that takes up more time than it needs to. Yeah. So that's the way of looking at this that has to do with time. We're going to get there though. This is an occupational hazard. I have so many stuck pictures. Okay, so here's my little story. Because I drew it, I have to share it. Anyways, I would have a great idea, right? And I'd get started right away. And then something would go a little wrong. And I'd think, oh, well, I'll get a new idea. And then I would have a new idea. Woo! I get started right away and something would go a little wrong. And oh, well, I'll get a new idea because I'm divergent. It was easier to jump to a new idea than it was to fix the earlier idea or clarify before I started. And I was just going in a terrible spiral instead of building things on things and making a life for myself. I was one of those people who everybody would say, she's so creative. Like, why isn't it adding up to anything? And this is why, because I was always too divergent. I was always willing to just hop to a new idea. I had, a lot of us have shiny object syndrome or squirrel. These are the primary ways that people lose time. Time sucks for divergent thinkers, right? Oh, okay. So you have to then choose staying in your happy place of too many ideas or using your happy place superpowers to help you commit and focus and build instead of spiral. So my block is too many ideas. What are the other divergent blocks? You can get stuck midway because you got started too quickly and you didn't really think it through. You can't stand the details and the structure, so you just sort of back away and start a new idea. You have too many ideas, you just can't pick one. You love them all. And you don't stop and clarify when you get bogged down. You just blame yourself or just the normal. You don't really, because clarifying is not your happy place, you just don't think of it. So this flip side of that coin is that you are a strong ideator and original thinker. So you have great ideas, you love to take crazy ideas, you're funny probably, you make easy and surprising associations. These are divergent strengths. So how might I focus? How might I pick and stick to one idea? You have to use your ideation. You love that, use it. So the challenges are, what you want to do is ideate the challenges. And you want to use the word might. Might is just a really strong word in the human brain. It's just like we have an evolutionary, it perks up our brain. We just go, oh, might be food, might be a sexual opportunity, might be a predator. We have a really strong reaction to the word might. So, and important to the diverger is to use rewards, because we get a lot of reward in a chemical way from new ideas. We don't get a lot of reward for sticking to a plan, or so you want to give your brain like chemical rewards, like sensational rewards, and that can be a candle, because literally that little flame can give your brain an actual chemical reward. A chocolate, anything can do that. Music can do that. Dancing can do that. You want a sensational or sensory reward. So we talked about mighty language. So here are the mighty language statement starters that people use. How to, how might I, what might be all the ways, and in what ways might I? And you could see that these set you up to ideate. What might be all the ways I could write in the mornings, right? How might I fix this or change this, or what do I need to get forward, move forward on this? So use your ideation to clarify by setting yourself up into a brainstorm about your challenges. Does that make sense? Okay. The why what's stopping you is a really great clarifying tool, and it can help you focus on what you want and why you want it. And the big picture or the big desire can really help you stick with it when you don't feel like it, right? So so this is if this were handwriting, it'd probably be clearer to you, but it would be great if what? Oops, sorry. How do I go back? Okay. It would be great if what? I finished my novel. I finished that screenplay. I could figure out just even the mother-daughter relationship. It could be anything about your life. It could be about your work. So in each of these whys, you just go up. This is called the ladder of abstraction, or just why, what's stopping you. So in each of these whys, you put a reason that you want that. Why? I don't know, make money. Why? Feel great. Why? Write my next book that's also crowding out this book, be allowed to move on. So then you abstract that. Make money. Why else? Pay bills. Why else? Help my family. Why? What did I say on this one? Doesn't matter. But you see, you just abstracted up. This one I think was be allowed to move on. Get that one published, whatever it is. But what's stopping you now down here? Also 3. What's stopping you? What's stopping you? And what's stopping you? What's stopping you? Time. Need to work, which is really time, and also fear. Fear might be. So when you go through those and you abstract those out, you also then you get to the point where you understand your aspirations, all the whys, and your fears, all the what's stopping yous. And you can turn your fears into challenge statements. How might I get over that fear? And then ideate. And you can take this vague desire and vague fear and turn it into something that you can act on because you're using your ideation powers to understand it. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, so those two tools are really strong for people who need to be allowed to use their ideation, but need to use it towards their own structure, moving forward, clarity. Okay, so convergent thinkers get stuck because they want to clean and organize instead of settling down to write. If you guys, if a convergent person could see my desk, they want to research and never get started. My mother is extremely convergent. Here we are, she's 93. She's been writing that since her 40s. So much research. Anyway, but so does this resonate with anybody? Is anybody in here consider themselves a convergent? Melinda? And then Stephanie, do you consider yourself a divergent or convergent? Okay, you can answer if you want. Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, I don't mind.
I'm learning to become more convergent.
Right.
I have a tendency to cast my net wide and then go through separating the wheat from the chaff. I wish I didn't have a tendency. It's always an attraction. I've tried to kill it and focus and just be more streamlined, but the temptation is always there to learn something new. And so I'm forcing myself, especially to complete the script and focus on, what each particular scene is, what new piece of information has to be presented. Because, one of the fundamentals that I've learned is if you have no new information in that scene, it has to be cut. So you have to kind of be brutal and get lean and mean when you're putting a script together.
The script is very convergent. Yeah, I like poetry.
Yes,
Convergent by
exactly.
nature.
So the last 2 years have been a real eye opener as far as realizing how unorganized I've been, and now my cat's screaming.
So I don't disagree with anything you're saying. I just hear it positioned in your brain as a have to. I'm disorganized. There's a little bit of like just a tinge of blame and a tinge of force. When what you want to do is get to where instead you can feel like what I'm great at is this original story, which got this guy's eye, because it must be a really original story idea. And how can I take that originality and that incredible divergence? I always want to learn something new, et cetera, and use it to my advantage, which you're currently doing by the fact that you're learning script writing, on the fire. Basically, you've got your feet to the fire and you're learning script writing. And you've got all these scenes that you're saying, how might I, well, you're saying, what do I have to put in this scene? You might be better off saying, what might be in this scene? And I agree with you. Script writing is very convergent. You will have to go large and then cut, go large and then cut. And it will take time that you don't necessarily have to spend. A novel can be far more perambulatory than a script.
Right, right. But
right, well, thanks for sharing.
It hasn't been lost time. That's the only thing I wanted to say. I'm grateful I've gone through it.
Cool, very cool. Thanks for sharing that. That's really interesting. But you have a divergent nature and you've got a convergent task. All I'm saying is you want to bring some of your divergence into the converging so that you can enjoy it more. But cool. So in convergence, it's the same. Which do you choose? Staying in your happy place, like, going out looking for things and, whatever. Oh, this is a converger. Sorry. Arrange, organize, and research. You can tell I'm a diverger. I forget to even. Or use your happy place superpowers to nurture your original ideas and support more risk taking. In a lot of cases, convergent people are going forward with things that they are half-rate ideas because they don't like them. They can't sit in uncertainty. They don't think they have good ideas, but they do know they can perfect it and put it out there, and they can even have a smugness about that in the same way that divergent can have a smugness about their originality or their coolness or whatever. But that is just not going to get you anywhere. What you need to do is understand what you need and choose to use your your superpowers to bring that to the fore. Like if they scheduled ideas and risk taking they would probably get to it if they put it on there. They knew it was going to take 2 hours, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, true, true.
So convergent blocks are perfectionism, uncertainty about quality or originality. They picked and settled on an idea probably too quickly, or they feel they did. Sometimes that's not always true. But anyway, that's the convergent blocks. We won't spend so much time there since none of us are convergent. But the strength is that they're strong planners, editors, and clarifiers. They love to make something real out of something vague. I mean, for me, I always worked with convergers in my marketing work. I was a brainstormer for years. All I did was put ideas out, and then they would be like, "Go home, little play person. We'll do the real work now," because they were convergers, you know. Okay. So you want to plan to be more original and risk taking. Use that. Okay. So now we're going to look at ways that if you had to look at this really organizedly, like if it had to be structured for you, then you want to look at brainstorming in a very structured way. You want to separate divergent and convergent thinking sessions. So much science supports this. List out your ideas first and then pick your ideas. So list them out and push for quantity and keep writing. Just keep ideas coming. Go to 50, go to 100, right? And be playful and fun and expansive, especially in business settings. A lot of people feel like, oh, I can't do that, or people won't respect me. But that's how you get good ideas. Strive for novelty and push for quantity, not quality. Go for the really crazy, weird ideas. So those are the brainstorming basics. And if you wanted to use them in a structured setting, that's what you would do. This is a concept that's good for all of us, whether or not you're an idea person, and that's the third. So ideas are fun part for a lot of us, but when you get to a place where when you're brainstorming, you're going to have the first raft of ideas, and that's going to be the first third, and they're usually very cliche ideas. And then your second raft of ideas, and if you write them down, more will come. If you don't write them down, they'll block up the next ones. But if you write them down, more will come, and then more come, and you go, oh, those are pretty good. And usually people run with those because they're pretty good. But if you push yourself to what's ineffable, it's not like it's countable, the third, you'll get to these really wild and crazy ideas. And a lot of times they'll even be stupid ideas because your brain is tired and because your editor is shifted off. And you're looking at these ideas and you're thinking to yourself, robots have sex in space. Why is this an idea? You know, like, but you write it down. And then instead of just going, oh, God, that one is so stupid. Instead of that, ask yourself, how might this idea work? It came to you for a reason. Not that robots having sex in space came to me for any reason, but in relation to your story. So how might this idea work? It's such a weird idea. Maybe it's a video game in the background of a conversation, or maybe it's a comic routine, or you know what I'm saying? Like, you can take a wild idea and tame it, but you can't take a tame idea and wild it. So let yourself go all the way to that weird, judgeable idea. And then use this affirmative question, how might this idea work? Okay, this to me is a really great tool, one that I've pushed myself to use often. Okay, so these are ways that you can push yourself in a very structured way to have more ideas. Scamper, these all come from, by the way, my degree with the Buffalo State College. And they each have their own inventors and researchers, and they're all creditable to somebody in that field. So you can substitute, combine, adapt, modify, magnify, minify, put to other uses, or eliminate. This is particularly good in business settings, but you might find you need to do this in a literary setting. You can see that McDonald's sells real estate, restaurants and real estate, instead of simply hamburgers. He puts that to other uses. He has customers pay before they eat, which is the first time that happened. That's rearranging. He let customers serve themselves, avoiding waiters, which is eliminate. So you can see, like, if you just look at a problem, like, and use Scamper, you might be able to take all this mess and sort of bring it into a more usable convergence. Okay, forced connections is a great one because we're all sitting at desks all the time. And so if you just take any object, I use a pencil in this example. I don't have a pencil handy, but often on a desk you just see a pencil. So if you were trying to come up with ideas for anything, you might say, okay, what are 3 attributes of this object? It's wood, it's yellow, it erases. These could be anything. It's, even if you had erasable, it might take your brain a different place. It doesn't matter what you come up with as the attributes. Take any or all of the attributes and make a forced connection between what you're trying to figure out and it. So how might whatever you're working on be wooden? Have a wooden response. What if he picks up a wooden object and starts just feeling it or thinking about it as he contemplates whatever it is you're writing? How might this be yellow? The character, paragraph, how is color used? What pops out? What stands out in my writing? How could I use yellow? You don't have to use yellow in your writing. It's just a jumping off point as a way of forcing a connection. And then what might I erase? Right? Like that's an editing question. Or who is so-and-so trying to erase in this passage? Or, your brain will go anywhere with it. Just let it go there, is what I'm saying. But you start with these attributes just to give yourself a jumping off point. And then forced connections of another kind is just pick any picture, the same thing, attributes, how do I force a connection? Like this one, Shakespeare, claymation, abstract art, Jello mold for a scientific experiment, brain, lettuce, whatever comes to your brain from these pictures, just use that to force a connection in what you're trying to figure out or come up with an idea for. And you will go really different places from you would if you were just making a list of ideas. Okay. So your voice might be trapped by a creative phase, but your time might also be wasted by a creative phase. So the best way to be the most productive of all times for yourself is flow. And flow is what Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi brings up, which is this idea that you lose a sense of your body for the most part. You're more in the scene than you are in your physical presence. You're more in the problem than you are in life. You forget you have to pee. You'll forget you have to eat. Sometimes you'll work so fluidly that you've lost track of time. And according to Mihaly, flow rather than happiness is what makes for excellence in life. And we all achieve flow without even thinking about it. But if you think about it and work toward it, like set yourself up for flow, you're going to be extremely productive in the time you give yourself. And one of the main ways to have flow is to use your strengths and powers to do whatever it is you need to do, instead of doing it ever the way everybody around you says to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so everybody around you will say, oh, you need to keep a Notion account and put everything in there. And, you have to have a spreadsheet, or you have to have whatever those things are, work for them. They may not work for you, and they're not going to keep you in flow. Whatever works for you is the thing that's going to lighten your heart and put you in flow. And you can do all the jobs of a job, all the tasks, sub jobs in flow, instead of in some asinine way that works for someone else. I swore I wouldn't swear. Okay. Flow and the promise of flow helps tests find their own time. If you are sitting in front of your desk and you can't figure out, you can't get yourself going, you can't write, don't think to yourself, what's coming up next in the book? What do I have to write? Because that can shut you down, particularly if it feels like I'm not sure what I'm going to write. The better question is, how did flow feel last time I was writing? Like your whole body can just feel it. And then that promise, basically your brain will want back in. And you don't really have to therefore figure it out. You're just in. And then you'll be going. So if you're sitting there a little bit stuck, the better question is, remember how flow feels. And then your brain will want in. It is sex for your thoughts, Okay. So this is just a time when I thought we could talk about like how you need to find time, or what's going on Like what are your obstacles to finding time? So if anybody wants to unmute and jump in. Or else I'll call on you. Alinda.
I don't mind speaking. Probably my biggest obstacle in it is finding time, and the obstacle in finding time is that I have a full-time career that I'm very committed to outside of writing,
Mhm.
and trying to, but I still know that I want to prioritize writing because it's still a need. It feeds things in me that nothing else does. And so I know I want and need to incorporate that, but it's the struggle with prioritizing things and making sure I can stay up with my career, in which other people are dependent on me,
Yeah.
and fit this in as well.
Mm-hmm. So is it the generativeness of each of those two things? Like, are they each like very demanding of your brain power, so you don't have energy, or is it just that it eats 8 to 10 hours a day?
I think it's more about eating my brain power, and my emotional resources. I work in mental health,
Mm-hmm.
and so my emotional resources end up being very depleted, with that. Well, especially if I'm not taking good care of myself, but to a degree, they're depleted,
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
And I need those resources in my writing. And, so I just feel kind of, I don't
Sometimes
know.
those resources can be replenished by your writing, though, too. Does that seem ever true?
Yes, that's a good point. Yes.
Um, yes, you do. If you have a heavy schedule like that, you do have to work around it, whether that's morning or evening or weekends. But
Right.
but this whole idea that you have to write every day, very Stephen King, right? That we all feel like we have to write every day.
Yes.
I don't find that to be at all true. I mean, you do have to keep that story sort of in your head.
Mhm.
It has to kind of stay staged so that you're
Right.
thinking about it at odd times, like when you're eating lunch or whatever.
Mhm.
But I've been writing 2 days a week for 1 hour a day. I'm making solid progress. I've a full draft of my novel. I'm working on a rewrite now. Sometimes it gets destaged because I have too much else going on, and then I have to give it like a Saturday to get it all restaged in my head so that at least it's percolating. And then when I go in on Tuesdays and Thursdays to write, I can write, you know?
Right. Mhm.
So I just, do you have children?
They're grown.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
But
a
they were
recent
always in your
teenager.
brain, even when you worked, the same way
Mhm.
this is sort of a baby that stays in your head. It's never,
Mhm.
you never forget their age or, whatever.
Right.
It's not the same. I'm not pretending it is because I have both, but yeah, so I think even just finding a little bit of time in which you
Mhm.
feel um happy to be writing,
Yeah.
you can accumulate. I mean, 400 pages I ended up writing,
That's incredible.
Yeah, what is it? It's basically, well, it's why I write with writers, because otherwise I wouldn't write.
Right.
So I thank you for that. Okay, so
Okay.
does that help? Is that a way forward? And you're a diverger, so you need
Yeah.
to have, you should do the why, what's stopping you, because you also need your bigger picture. Why is it worth it? If you
Right.
really know why it's worth it, you really know why your career's worth it, right?
Right.
So
Yes.
I'm sure you have shitty days in your career, and yet you know why it's worth it. It's
Right.
serving your family, people are depending on you, you enjoy it, you don't want to get kicked down to a
Mhm.
target job,
Right.
you see what I'm saying? Like you
Yes.
understand that big picture inherently. Draw that big picture for yourself with the why, what's stopping you tool for your novel, and you'll start to understand better why it's worth carving that time out for yourself. You're never going to find time if you
No.
don't, because we all have all the 24 hours a day. It's not like there's no time. It's a matter of understanding why something's really worth the time.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Okay,
Absolutely. Thank you.
sir. Heidi or Stephanie, if you want.
I can speak to that. I have time. I have commitment. I'm really good at committing. I need community to really establish. I know that's what holds me back, because I live alone. I don't have kids. I'm in the country, so I'm quite isolated. and I've got 3 hours a week that I co-write with someone, but I'm not, I just feel I get tons done then, and then I kind of forget about it. And I just would love to write more.
Nice, nice.
I want to flow more. I want
Yeah,
more.
nice. Yeah. Okay. So Stephanie, what about you?
Ah, I don't know if it's an issue for me with having to find more time. I'm fortunate that I don't have formal work obligations outside of the house right now.
Mhm.
Um, mine is a lot more subjective and personal.
You don't have to share if you're not comfortable. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. But
No, it's more a case. I think there's a part of me that is just trying to push down the fear of disappointing Joshua, who has been nothing but encouraging for the past 2 years, who's been shepherding this whole project.
right?
And there's another part of me that's afraid of success.
Yeah. Fear's a
Um,
biggie. Yeah.
And I and the reason that I bring that up is there actually is another producer within Voyage who has accessed the original story and has been following the progress on the script and the exchanges. And he actually used to work for Michael Douglas.
Oh, so no slouch.
Yeah,
Legit.
so there's actually, like, somebody who is known who is interested in this material, and
Mhm.
there's a part of me that's just like, don't screw this up, don't screw this up, don't screw this up.
Oh, I
And
hate to
I
hear
just wish
that.
I
I
could
hate to
get
hear
that
that
voice
because
out of
it's
my
such an
head.
uncreative approach. Don't, I hear you though. I get it. I can sympathize. I just hope you can find a way to approach it in a playful way. Like, this is so cool, I get to do this, or it's amazing my story is getting this much attention, or, and I'm not trying to like whitewash your actual thoughts with these cheerful thoughts, but a
Mhm.
little bit, if you can find something that you can believe that is cheerful, happy, fun, exciting, and that you don't have too much mental pushback on it, you'll be able to approach it with less trepidation and less time waste. Um, there's there's a blog post that I wrote called Disciplined Thinking, and it is very much this way to find how to be aware of your thoughts, how they're affecting what you're doing, but also how to find that happy thought that is believable to you. We're not just trying to be, like a white out of your bad thought. You're trying to get to a place where this is true and this is true. You don't want to disappoint Joshua. I get that. I really do. I can feel it coming through the screen. And then this is true too. Joshua chose me and he loves me. So whenever you have this thought that's like nagging at you, paste this thought over because they're both true. So which one gives you more energy? This one that's true or this one that's true? And that's when you can just choose the true that helps you. You know?
Yeah,
Um,
I hear you.
Like, I can remember times when I was just eating a brownie going, I shouldn't be eating this. You can imagine how you feel when you're eating a brownie, you're judging yourself for eating a brownie, and you're saying in your head, in a really sort of mean way, I shouldn't be eating this.
And then you eat another one.
And then you do more, right? So the question is it true that you shouldn't be eating it? Well, reality is you are eating it. So it's not true that you shouldn't be eating it because it's in your mouth. The reality is you are eating it. So can you get to the point where you're thinking, I should eat this, and I'm okay with eating this? Or do you have to, and then if you can get to that place, then you can sit and enjoy that brownie and you're less likely to have the second brownie.
My version of that, though, is after I'm done eating the brownie, then I go out and get on my bike to burn off the calories to pay penance for eating the brownie.
Well, so the negative thoughts are still with you then. So you really want to get to where you have two thoughts. They're both true, but you choose the happier, more productive thought. And as I said, on my blog, it's called Disciplined Thinking. And my blog is just at decodingcreativity.com/blog.
I'll look it up.
When we get off share, I can put that in the chat. So I can
Okay,
put it in
thank you.
now.
Great.
That is the work of Byron Katie. And that I write about. And it changed my life, that book.
Hmm.
It's called her book is called Loving What Is. And it's
Okay.
it's an amazing turnaround on on how you talk with yourself. Okay, so this is an invitation now. I'm running this thing this summer, which perhaps you've gotten an email on the subject, called the Writing Days of Summer. And it's 100 Writing Days of Summer. It's the 3rd year I'm running it. It's different every year. This year I'm trying to get it to the basics of what matters to people. So first, just to think about what you want to write and what you want to find time to write. And secondly, what do you need to do that? So for me, it's 100 co-writing sessions on Zoom. It's every day. Now, that doesn't mean you have to come every day. It's 100 opportunities to write. This is not a 100-day challenge where you're either cheating or lying or something if you skip a day. This is not about that. I'm just not a gird your loins kind of coach, because it doesn't lead to creativity, is why I'm not that. It's, you know what I mean? It leads to running a base faster. It leads to, there's a lot of coaching that can be gird your loins and run. But creativity coaching has to be understand your loins and use them to their best effect. Okay, so we have 100 co-writing sessions. I run 4 of them and my colleague runs 3 of them. It's progress. It's a page or 2 an hour. So you just keep accumulating pages. It's shared, it's celebrated, it's momentum. So that's what we'll be doing. So, and this Ursula K. Le Guin says, collaborative workshops and writers groups weren't invented when I was young. They're a wonderful invention. They put the writer into a community of people all working on the same art, the kind of group musicians, painters, and dancers have always had. So the reason I do 100 Writing Days of Summer is sort of a, because I have the Mighty Writers Club, and it's like a cherished group of writers. And I like to get to know people and get to know what they're writing and work with them before we bring them into the Mighty Writers Club, because we don't have turnover. People are writing 1 year, 2 years. In fact, I think like 80% of our writers in 2022 wrote a first full draft. And that's just basically however many out of 5 that they want to show up and write 5 days a week. It's a great group. It's a thoughtful, inclusive writers group. You don't have to do it alone. You can do it with us. And we're at all stages of writing, rewriting, pitching. People have producers interested in their work. One woman, not unlike Stephanie. So, people writing, we don't have right now, but we have had, we do have right now, a children's writer, it's just a really good group. And this will be very similar to that. It'll include them for that matter, because this is free with Mighty Writers Club. Anyway, so also, we will do the 7 works in progress each month. So you get to read 7 polished minutes of your work to a live audience on Zoom. You get feedback, applause. It's a recorded piece that you can use on your website. You can use with an agent. It is also just a transformative experience because you hear feedback from however many people are listening. It's usually about 100 people who come to the live events. I have a list of people who just like readings, So we do this at once a month, 7 minutes, 7 works in progress. It tends to then be about an hour. And then there are templates, shortcuts, creativity tools. If you're just getting started, we can give you help in like how WordPress and how to set your document up to be manipulable. Templates include John Truby's 22 steps or the 4-act story writing structure. Shortcuts, we abound. We have so many, like those creativity shortcuts and tools. So then if you want to dig deeper this summer, we are going to set up beta reader triads. That's actually going to be I'm going to teach a course and get a cohort together of triads. So that's a different program, but I am going to offer it to you guys. And you can also pick up, if you want, the Decode Your Mind Creativity Assessment. all these are both extras. They're not included in the 100 writing days of summer, but they will come up this summer. Okay, so it's $279 for the summer, which is less than $3 a session. You participate in the reading, and you can pay by month if you just want to give it a month's try for $99. Okay, and that is the link. Oh, Heidi says she's in for the summer. That's nice to hear. Very good. So, any questions, or I'll leave it on the link so you can see it. Any questions or thoughts that you want to ask a question or think about?
I had a question.
Sure.
Are there certain times that these writings take place?
They are, and I'll try and remember them all. I have 2 open because I want to see who's coming from what time zone and what kinds of times they might like. But I have Mondays at my times are Pacific. So Mondays at noon, which is 3 o'clock your time. Tuesdays at 9. You're in Massachusetts, you said, right?
No, I'm in Texas.
Oh, okay, I can't do Central Time. My
It's-
brain can't do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was talking Pacific. So 12 noon Pacific time on Monday, 9 a.m. Tuesdays and Thursdays. Wednesdays is at 7 a.m. Pacific time, 10 a.m. Eastern time, but you're in the middle.
That's 9 for me.
Then-
Yeah.
And then Saturdays right now are 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time. My colleagues in Eastern time, that's why I think that way. But I come from New York, that's why I think that way, to be
Okay.
honest. We moved out here 5 years ago. But at any rate, there's 2 that are yet to be scheduled, Friday and Sunday in particular. I thought I'd wait and see who's coming in and what kinds of time zones they would look for. We don't have anything. If you're on the East Coast, we have a few that are like 3 or 4 o'clock, but if I put one at 4 o'clock, some people could write at 7 or 8, 4 or 5 on my time. So I wanted to just get a consensus on that.
Okay.
But our first one will be Thursday, June 1st at 9 a.m. Pacific time.
Okay.
Okay,
Alright,
and we'll
thank you.
probably have like a gathering Monday night, June 5th, to just get a sense of who's in the, what they want, set those times. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
We'll have a welcome sent thing on Monday to June 5th. I like this to have sort of the feeling of being at a conference, with the collegiality and the, so, okay. Do those times work for you? Are they difficult for you, or?
They would work for me. The earlier times are better. I like to write earlier in the day, so the earlier ones are better for me.
9 a.m. Is that
Yeah.
early? And there's a 7.
Well, it's the 7 would be probably great.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So good. Like I said, basically I write this summer. I intend to write with you guys every day, but basically I write the Tuesdays and Thursdays, and my colleague does the other 3. And the 2 days a week has given me a book, really has. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Any
Thank you.
questions, Stephanie?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I do have some commitments I have to look at to see if it would work with your schedule, but
Okay.
I will definitely be thinking about it.
Somewhere along the way, you'll get an email that has FAQs, and that will be in those particular writing times will
Oh,
be.
great. I appreciate that.
I don't remember if it's scheduled. It might be scheduled for today. I don't really remember when it's scheduled for, but the FAQs will include those writing times. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Any other thoughts? Okay. What's one thing you took away from this? What's one thing that helped you today?
One thing, knowing I'm not alone.
Oh, okay.
It's just I probably spend just too much time in my head. It's good for me to be collaborating and just being part of a group of people and hearing new ideas.
Yeah.
It's good to have fresh energy and fresh perspective.
I don't think people understand how collaborative writing is anyway. Even if nobody else touched your book and you publish it all by yourself, the reader is collaborative. You say something about your Aunt Missy or as a character, and they imagine their mom. They don't ever imagine what you imagine, no matter what you describe.
True. Sure.
So, I mean, it's always collaborative just from the get, before you even bring in editors or designers or, publishers or Amazon. Amazon's limiting if you self-publish. So you end up doing something a little bit different from what you envisioned, or that kind of thing. It's just automatic that, and the culture is collaborative. If you think of like cover designs right now, you've probably seen this at the Target. They call it Frangipani Unicorn, this bright pinky green, every book has this same cover kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't have one right here that does that, but the culture is collaborative as well. So it is by nature collaborative. So what you want to try and do is get the collaboration that helps you, not the collaboration that limits you. It's the same thing. It's going to happen. So how can you get it to work for you?
Right.
So that's a nice thought. Thank you for sharing that.
Certainly.
Linda, what about you? What did you take away that matters?
I think the biggest thing is just you reminding me of how rejuvenating and energizing writing can be, and kind of
Mhm.
taking myself back to that space that I'm in when I write, and realizing it really feels like my true self when I'm writing. And so
It does. It fills a
it's good to
space,
be
right?
reminded. Yeah,
It doesn't deplete. It fills, in my
right.
opinion. Right.
Yeah.
Very nice. It never fills a space to have to write a memo or an email. But
Right.
we can't confuse those things. They're both writing, but they ain't.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice. Well, thank you for sharing that, both of you. That really matters to
you.
me, just so that I get a good sense of what matters to people as I go through this. Okay, well, that's it for today. That is the link. I would love to have you both in there. And Heidi, I enjoyed spending time with you today. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Julia. Really appreciate all of your ideas.
And good luck with that. I really hope that your screenplay comes along, leaps and bounds.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
I appreciate the encouragement. Thank you, hon.
Okay. I'm gonna go. Thanks for everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, I didn't put the